Welcome to TradeTheMBA.com. This is John's reports for the 10th of August. Well, we continue to slow back and forth, continuing to move higher. Still cyan under red, so within our always a buy. And of course, you can see the power mill. And they've done a really good job of pretty much keeping everything fairly consistent. So if there's any question about the power of the Fed, I think that that debate can end. Of course, I thought it was a done debate after 2010 when they got involved and pretty much dictated how the market was going to go from there. And we've talked about this, the gentle easing off, and then they just pick their support levels and attack. And we can see it on our 5K chart that we look at for the S&P. It's pretty clear. From a NASDAQ standpoint, a little bit softer because we've had this fading steel, and it's of course now that it's dipped below negative 13, it's a little bit negative, but just a turnaround from there. Will be a little bit more strength. The question will be whether we get any failing of red long-term buyers, which we haven't seen. We are seeing some more short activity, but that's what is necessary to drive things up. From a euro standpoint, just a little bit of a fade back, not much. This is still pretty strong. Again, it's below the negative 13 also, and that's what's produced a little bit of softness and the separation right there. As the Power Mode 2, we look for that magenta and green to come back together. Will be the end of that, but Euro's gotten a lot of action, and that's simply because, well, the U.S., of course, the longer the delay is on the stimulus package, the stronger the dollar theoretically should be to the euro, simply because you're not doing anything. They're $1.8 trillion in cash that they can't really spend, and even with the executive order on payroll deductions, and that it's not going to impact that cash, so it's just sitting there waiting. And I imagine now, some strategists might be saying, if you're the Democrats, you don't want anything because that just leaves you $1.8 trillion to spend for the new president, depending on who it is. And so there's that cynical side of things. Of course, from an oil standpoint, you want to see market manipulations. There you go. That's perfect. From a worldwide standpoint, to be able just to maintain that solid base is just enough for some in the shale and that to be able to maintain status quo. Not necessarily profitable, but not really losing a ton. From a gold standpoint, a little bit of softness with all those positive extremes that dip back below. Again, it's pretty clear when we see it on all different markets, that dip of that steel below the negative 13.5 produces just a little bit of softness. You need to have it correspond with the rise in short interest for it to have any real strength. And so from an intraday, we look at how choppy things were. The fade downs, the slight buys, just filling it all back in each time, and then retesting lows only to spike back up, and that's where we find ourselves right now, is back on the plus side of it. And just taking that, moving closer and closer to that expected 4K number. Could be a little bit tougher if you don't have stimulus to keep things motivated. Of course, that executive action helps in extending the unemployment moratorium on evictions. Those kinds of things would really exacerbate the meltdown we saw in 2009. So I think they're working very hard to avoid that kind of setup, and that's pretty much keeping things where they are. So that is the long and the short of it. Pretty straightforward, simple. As always, though, we just keep following positive extremes. They keep getting filled, as well as dips below the red line. So the market is behaving, I would say, technically perfect, despite what some people might think about valuations or whatever. I don't think that's relevant when you're talking about such a significant currency devaluation, but that just seems to be outside of some people's comprehensions at this particular point, but that's okay. We understood it early on, and seeing it play out in front of us. As always, though, I will update any special information on the Skype chat. Trade well. We'll talk again later.